I'd like to call the March meeting of the Board of PARC to order, and I'd like to welcome the public and open the meeting to any comment. Does anybody wish to make a comment, statement, question? If not, everybody's received a copy of their minutes. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Henry, second by Peter. Are there any changes, corrections? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Chairman's report, I'm going to pass, and I'll turn it over to Marketing Committee.
Just a few items, if I just mention them. There continue to be bi-monthly meetings of the Workforce Task Force, which is an effort to pull together all of the frontline people involved in recruitment for area companies. They had their second meeting out here last week. They are going to meet again in May, and it's a good opportunity for PARC every couple of months to interact with them and give them a heads up on what's happening and where marketing efforts are going, so they can be prepared, hopefully a little bit ahead of the curve, to meet employer needs out here. In that vein, on Friday, I should mention it from 1 to 3, the simulator building, the Labor Department has arranged a job fair that everyone in the North Country is invited to, has an interest in what kinds of jobs are out here right now amongst PARC's tenants. All of the tenants will be there, or at least I expect most of them will be there, with their human resource people, with information on the companies, on jobs that are available. Everyone in the North Country looking for a job or interested in finding out what kinds of jobs are out here where these companies can come that day, walk in 1 to 3, no reservations needed, and find out more. Several PARC tenants took part in the Chambers Industrial Summit this week, and we'll be following up on a number of things that they contributed. And something that you've heard about in the past, the Champlain Trade Corridor Initiative is going to be taking a next step and doing a substantive workshop at the Chambers building on April 8th. One of the program elements, which I think some of the PARC staff will certainly have some interest in, is a presentation on federal T21 transportation funding, and particularly the new category of funding for trade corridor initiatives. So we'll let you know more about that. That's it.
Good. Thank you, Barry. Any questions, Barry?
The meeting, you said on the jobs, the job fair is Friday? The
Friday from 1 to 3.
Okay.
Okay. Henry, finance.
There is no Finance Committee report this month. Due to conflicts, our meeting won't be held till tomorrow morning.
Okay.
At 8:30, Henry.
At 8:30, and be there.
Okay. CEO's report.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to just start off by thanking my staff, because as you're all probably aware, I was out of town. I got home at 2 o'clock last night. And my youngest brother gave my older second brother a kidney over from Thursday, Friday, and over the weekend. And the staff did a tremendous job putting the marketing committee and all the committee reports and the outline for this board meeting together. And I need to tell them thank you and to compliment them publicly, because a year ago, or 10 months ago when you hired me, the concern was that we would have a staff to have continuity and professionalism. And I think it's evidenced by your packets that you were given and what they put together this morning. You've got a real top-shelf team, and I'd just like to say thank you. The first letter that I'd like to talk about is a letter that we sent, David Glenn sent to Andy Abdallah. Okay, the meetings are going so well with the city evaluating the infrastructure, and the participation of the council members and the city staff, that we've proposed a letter to Mr. Abdallah requesting that we set up the same kind of working committee with the town of Plattsburgh and start evaluating the infrastructure on the new base. Second is also a copy of a letter of the minutes and notes from the meeting with the city, okay, as prepared, and where we're going with there, as well as some interdepartmental notes that have gone back and forth, and David will give us more on that. There's a letter in your packet regarding the 4th of July. We were notified that the Common Council had approved for the city to hold fireworks on July 3rd. PARC had agreed to sponsor 4th of July one more year and try to transcend it into another lead person. We were working on that, but when we found out that the city was going to hold one on July 3rd, there's no reason for us to have it on July 4th. So Robin's contacted the city and offered our assistance in coordinating with the city for 4th of July. And those letters are in your packet. We've been invited to give a talk on at the OEA conference in Washington. We'll be preparing that agenda this week, and Bruce Stedman, myself, and Ken Hines will be traveling to Washington next Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we're going to give a joint talk on, because of our results in the first 7 months, we'll address what we've done during that time frame, and then be part of a workshop and question and answer panel for other base closures. There'll be about 1,900 to 2,000 people there at the seminar. Also is a request, or a letter, where we received a request from the United Romanian Jews of America, okay, and they had requested that we provide them with floor plans and various housing information to their architects and engineers. David Glenn has forwarded the information that we have available to them. We received a letter from Brian Gladwin, okay, if you have it in your packet. And I'd like to open it up for discussion and see how everybody feels about it. Maybe we should turn this letter over to the marketing committee. Maybe I could read it out loud so the public knows what we're talking about. Dear Dan, I'm not sure how to go about this, so I will lay out the facts and look for your guidance. There's a hotel-like property on the old base that has a plaque that recognizes the late Robert C. McHugh. In addition to being an outstanding member of Congress, he was also an important influence on my life. Although I'm not sure many people were influenced by Mr. McHugh, I might argue that I had more personal relationship with him, as he and my mom, Margaret Gladwin McHugh, were married for 15 wonderful years until he passed away. Now to the strange or unusual request department. Is it possible to get a plaque that is in the old base property? How would I go about acquiring it, if possible? Any assistance or guidance could be appreciated. What I would like to do is ask permission of the board to request from John Haru in the Air Force that if there's no need to keep that plaque, that we forward it to Mr. Bud. That's okay? There's a letter, a copy of a letter that was sent to Dana Rath, the Vice President of Finance and Administration for Nexia. Nexia contacted the town of Pittsburgh requesting information on the possibility of housing 1,500 goats on the west side of the runway in the area that we're proposing to lease to them. And Don Lee from the town provided them with information and said there were no zoning or problems with what their intended use of that property would be. There's a letter in your packet regarding the ESD approval of our last financial request, and those funds are now available, markedly for $2.5 million, and the letter acknowledges receipt and approval. We've been requested to take and have our committee, our executive staff, do a presentation to the Plattsburgh Housing Committee. We will do that on Tuesday, March 16th. and bring them up to date on what's happening at Park and do our little on-the-road show for the Housing Authority. That pretty much concludes what I have for open session. The balance of my issues would be lease issues, which would be taken up in executive session. But before we go into that, I'd like to give each of the department heads an opportunity to give a report on their departments. We'll start out with marketing, and Karen Gosnell.
Good morning. It has been a busy 2 weeks since the announcement of Pratt Whitney. In support of that, the marketing department has completed a mailing to aviation-related companies informing them of our latest tenant, Pratt Whitney. I thank Mr. Douglas for mentioning the New York State Department of Labor holding a job fair here at PARC. Please note, it'll be this Friday, March 19th, from 1 to 3. PARC tenants will be attending along with CV Tech, Clinton Community College, and other local private employment agencies. And it will be held in the simulator building. Please get the word out. Thank you.
David Glenn, engineering.
Good morning. The first item is the building 2893, building for GSM. As a tenant is now complete, and that project is within budget and within our timeline. And many thanks to the Building and Grounds Department of PARC for their excellent construction of that building. And if somebody wants to see, the board would like to see an excellent building, I think some of you have toured it, and how it would look for a tenant in a, what we call our incubator buildings, or those buildings. There are several of those buildings, and that's what one could look like, and marketing is suggesting that perhaps we do another one in that regard so that we would have one available to future tenants. In terms of the Heritage Trail, that project for the engineering department is basically complete. The city has met all the requirements that we had for meets and bounds and for moving property lines. It is by letter to Rosemary Schoonmaker on the 28th. We basically said that there's easement language that needs to be worked out. It's now a legal matter, and it's turned over to Randall Beach and our legal department to work with the city to iron out those details. As Dan mentioned, we've had excellent meetings with the City Park Committee and with a technical subcommittee of that group held on the 10th, just a few days ago. We had very open discussions about the utilities, particularly the water to start with, and that seems to be moving very well, and we look forward to doing the same, as Dan indicated, with the town. We have met with the planning board of the town of Plattsburgh and the zoning board of appeals, and we have tentatively invited them to tour the base on the 23rd. We may be moving that as a result of senior staff being out of town in Washington, as Dan indicated that week. We've had several successful, very good meetings with Pratt & Whitney and the proposed tenant for Nose Dock 1 in terms of scoping out those projects and working toward developing the list of construction items that need to be done rather soon for occupancy of both of those, the main hangar and Nose Dock 1. Thank you.
Well, just to add on to David's report a little bit, to clarify, Park started on a project to retrofit the large hangar a couple of years ago. Part of it was the demoing and the cleaning it out. And what we've committed to Pratt Whitney is a continuation of that project, nothing over and above. And to the good news side of that project, we may be able to salvage the fire system.
Yes.
With just a few minor upgrades, which we have projected into that project almost $1 million in doing the fire system. Bringing in a lot less. The doors have been, we've been notified that the doors can be sealed and retrofitted, and instead of a showcase, this thing's going to end up being a real working place of business, and I think we're going to bring it in well below budget by the end of it. And all we're going to do is continue on with the scope of work which was developed a couple of years ago, and anything over and above that's tenant-specific, Pratt & Whitney will be responsible for. And they've been here frequently for the last 2 weeks with 4 and 5 people at a time. And as well, we've had meetings with the FAA in preparation for any permitting and upgrades that we need to do that. So, moving along real well.
The funds that are saved on the door and the fire system, is that going to be spent on other areas in that building?
either in that building or within the flight line operation. And we'll continue to go into the flight line operation. Correct, David?
Yep.
And that's hard to do, because we have to keep going back to the EDA and redoing, so we're trying to get a good handle on where we're at. David's doing a good job with the staff properly. Finance Administration, Mark.
Good morning. Just a couple of quick points. As Dan mentioned, our ESDC funding for the year was approved verbally and by letter. We're still awaiting the final grant agreement. Also, our 1999 OEA funding was approved, so we're awaiting the final documents on that. As Henry mentioned, our Finance Committee for the month will be held tomorrow, and we're currently working on our 6-month financial statement for the period ending December, which hopefully we'll have by the end of the week.
And buildings and grounds, Art?
I have a brief written report here that I don't think is part of the packets. You're just testing. The only thing I think I would add to that is that hopefully this will be the last time that I will report anything to you about the conversion from the central heat plant to everything has been done. All of the faulty actuator valves have been replaced, and we have natural gas now in 20 buildings. So I would like to recognize Bill Tracy and Bob Zuckerman. They're the two that really shepherded this whole project through. It was a big project, and we did it all within the budget and really under a pretty tough time constraints. So that's all I have.
Absolutely.
That pretty much, Randall. Randall's been pretty active here the last week or two. So Randall, why don't you tell us where we're at?
Good morning. I'm happy to report that as of this morning, we are now up to date with our leases. During the last 2 weeks, approximately 16 leases were sent out to tenants, and they are reviewing them and hopefully going to execute the copies that they've received. Since our last meeting, also 2 commercial leases have been executed. And last week, I completed 4 renewals, and where the renewals stand at this point, they need to be undergo a staff review and then go out to tenants. So we are up to date. To touch a little bit on the Heritage Trail issue, I've worked with David Glenn, as he mentioned, and now that project has switched over to the legal side. We have drafted language and submitted that to the city. We are awaiting the city. We felt it was best to let the city draft language that needed to come from them rather than try to put words in their mouth. We drafted language that was appropriate for us to draft, and we will get together and hopefully complete that project very soon. Last week, a week ago, actually, last Tuesday, I attended a conference in Albany put on by the New York State Building and Construction Trades Council on project labor agreements. David Glenn and I were supposed to go. David unfortunately got called away to an emergency meeting, but I attended that conference, learned quite a bit about project labor agreements, and have started to work with David and thinking about how we can implement those or how they would fit in our future projects.
Randall, we have a project labor agreement on our main
Yes.
hangar and our nose deck currently.
Yes. We have conducted a comprehensive review of the straight lease and have 99% completed that project, and we'll be sending that to Clinton County IDA in the next few days. On the grant side of my job, the next EDA pre-application is 95% done. I need to go over a couple points with Mr. Poyer, and that will be sent out in a few days. Also on grants, I've been spending my spare time researching in the local libraries and on the internet for additional grant sources, and at this point have found 9 potential private funding sources that I will be pursuing. I think that's the update to this moment.
Thanks, Randall.
Keeping himself busy.
That concludes the CEO report. Information update. First, any questions for any of the staff or myself, we'd be more than happy to answer them at this time. Otherwise, we have quite a few issues,
Yep.
leases, and things to go over the executive session.
Okay, any old business? Any new business?
Well, under new business, this is my first opportunity to congratulate Dan and everyone at PARC for the Pratt & Whitney job. That's wonderful news, obviously, for the city, the county, and the whole North Country. And on behalf of Governor Pataki, I'm pleased to extend my congratulations.
Go ahead.
Rainey,
Yeah.
just on a much smaller note, I've had a couple of, well, many inquiries about two things out here as far as the possibility of when we're going to open the north gate, and also the possibility of increasing the speed limit in the areas other than the school. A lot of people that are working here now are having, let's say, lunch breaks, et cetera, where it's difficult to get back and forth in a reasonable period of time with our 20-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Okay, two things, Peter. The north gate currently is open round the clock for walkthrough, okay? The reason it's open for walkthrough is because until we get ongoing police protection on the old base,
No, I'm,
oh, you talked Arizona, I'm sorry.
too.
You said
sorry.
the north gate, I thought you meant the north gate over here, you
Nope.
mean on Arizona Avenue?
Yep.
Okay, well, the gate over here is open for walkthrough.
I knew that.
Until we get police protection, we're not gonna have traffic come through there. People can come through, walk their dogs and everything.
Right.
Maybe during the summer months, when there's soccer and things going on, we'll open that up. The Arizona Avenue gate, until we can, you know, there's a price to pay, okay? And the price to pay for the Arizona Avenue gate being open is security, okay?
Right.
The Air Force is currently paying for the security to protect the buildings and interests that they have, okay? Our feeling is that there isn't enough traffic yet to justify Arizona Avenue being open, because it would mean stationing another guard there. We have gotten a request, okay, from a couple of the tenants, and basically there's only one tenant or two tenants that have an interest in having it done, okay? The rest of the tenants aren't that concerned about it. But we're researching it to possibly open it during business hours only, so it would be like an 8-hour extra guard that PARC will have to pick up, because the Air Force, it hasn't anything to do with that, number one. Number two, the speed limit. The reason there's a problem with the speed limit is there's the North Side School, which is right in the middle of New York Avenue, okay, and that's a school zone. And no matter where you go, it's 20 miles an hour in the school zone, okay?
that's fine. But that's a small stretch, really.
Yeah. Well,
I've never,
and that's where the 20-mile-an-hour zone is, okay?
was
In fact, what we've just done.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's just in that section. And in fact, just to bring everybody, our concern is with the amount of traffic out there now, because there's over 1,000 people a day going on and off, just employees going on and off the base. And what we've done is, we've got the lights and everything on Arizona Avenue where the rails cross in on Idaho. We've put stop signs so that we are putting stop sections. We come to the railroad to make sure everybody stops, because the trains run on an irregular basis at Arizona Avenue, at New York,
Haven't done it in New York yet, but we're,
in the process,
yeah.
okay, and down by Idaho. And at the same time, I've asked Art to the stoplight by Southside, North Side and Southside School at the diagonal there. We're going to reactivate that light and make it a stop and go if we can, or something, to slow traffic down, okay?
Dan, I think some people are under the impression that the 20 miles an hour applies to the entire base.
Yeah,
But I don't know if it says beginning 20-mile-an-hour zone and end 20-mile-an-hour zone. I think that maybe there's a sign that would correct that.
There's a difference between a 20-mile-an-hour zone and no police people around, okay, and 50 and 60 miles an hour, okay? So as much as you have people who want it increased a little bit, we have, people out there and there's nobody around, it's Raceway Park, and we got people flying down.
So what are we saying then?
We're gonna monitor it and see how it goes.
Are we saying 20 miles an hour in the whole base, or are we saying?
I don't think anybody's ever said it's 20 miles an hour in the whole base.
No, I
To
think
my estimation, I think it says there's a school zone.
It's 30 or
It's
35
30,
elsewhere.
35 elsewhere, which is normal residential.
Is there a sign art that says starting 20 and ending 20?
That's a good point. There is a sign when you're going toward the gate on the way off the base that does say end school zone, but...
Could you check that, please?
Yeah, you may be right there. I don't recall any signs that say the
I'm not
actual
sure either.
speed limit.
You know, the other thing we have
Thank you,
is
thanks, Ed.
during the summer months, the YMCA daycare, those kids go for walks, okay? And they cross over New York Avenue, like they'll walk down and then cross over New York Avenue. You get to the playgrounds and the gyms and things. I don't know.
We're not talking about, I'm just saying, it was under my impression that the whole base was 20 miles an hour.
That's
If
my
it isn't,
impression,
if it's
too.
normal city limits, then that's fine.
It is.
That's all.
So if it's clarified that it's 30 elsewhere,
I'm not
except
looking
for the
for,
school zone, it corrects the
interstate
problem. Yeah. We're not
numbers.
60 miles an hour.
Interstate,
Anything else, Peter? All right, anybody else? Any other questions?
No.
Okay. I'd like to open the meeting back up for public comment. Does anybody have any questions from the public? If not,
Motion to go to executive session for leasing matters.
I have a motion by Gary, executive session for leasing matters. Do I have a second? Second by Sandy. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Take a 10-minute break.